Too often, we hear of domestic violence after tragedy has already occurred. And in the United States, on average, more than 3 women are killed by their husbands or significant others every day. I'm Yaniel White, and along with Visions of Hope, we come together in celebration of a group of women who have shown incredible strength in the face of adversity, the survivors.
Visions of Hope was inspired by the tragedy that my children and I went through for 13 years at the hand of my ex-husband. But through that, we understood that there are so many things that we want to do to help to pay it forward. When my little girl, she was under 3 years old, Nicole, she had come down the stairs one morning and she had seen me thrown over the furniture. When I had gotten up from that fall and I saw her little face, it just tore me up. And I said, it just kind of, the light bulb went off and I said, what am I doing? This is enough already. You know, I had gotten so scared from all of the things that I'd gone through, but the panic in her face had made me realize finally, I cannot allow this to go on anymore. Enough is enough and I've got to get out of this situation. And I decided, you know, all the things that he always told me I couldn't do. You'll never amount to anything. You can never go back to school. You'll never get your degree. You'll never buy a house. Never, 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 never. And I got so sick of hearing the never in my life. One day I said, you know what? All that he told me I'm not going to do, I'm going to go and do it. I went back to school and I started getting my education. And last year I graduated from USF with honors with my bachelor's degree in communications.
My first memory as a child is cowering in the laundry room of one of my mother's friends, and she came in and asked my mother, you know, where's the gun? It's like the first memory I have of life is just, you know, traumatic. And we left. My mom left my dad, she escaped with her life, and then it was the same thing, like my brother's dad, you know, and it was just constant fighting, arguing, abuse, bad abuse, you know. And I left home at 13 because I couldn't take it anymore. I pray all the time. Breaking free, which is so apropos, I just love that. Breaking free was a hard process, and I've had to dig deep, and having my son has propelled me so far from where I was in my thought process, and, you know, thinking I wasn't as good, and knowing now I am.
I was an abused housewife for 9 years, and one day my 5-year-old was standing here, my 3-year-old was standing here, and I had the baby on the bed and I was changing his diaper, and their dad came in, was impatient about what was ever going on, and he kind of like flung the 5-year-old across the room and told her to do her own hair. She's standing there with the brush waiting for me to do her hair. And that was it. That's when I realized I'll take all the abuse to keep the family together. I'll take all the abuse, but not to the kids. The kids are not going to be abused. So when he went to work, I packed a few extra diapers and I went to the local church, and I told her a little bit about what was going on and asked her to help me get out of town, and she did. We left that night, and the 4 of us came to Florida to stay with my mom, and that's when my life changed. She told me, she says, you know, Ivy, you can talk to God the same way you can talk to me. So I said, God, would you get my husband and I back together? And as clearly as I heard that bang, I heard somebody say, Ivy, don't ask for something you don't want. And I got ticked, because I believed that when you ask God for something, He gives it to you, which is a lie from the pit of hell. Because God doesn't give you something that'll hurt you, whether you know it or not. That's our great sovereign God.
The first time he came home completely drunk and came towards me and put his fist into the wall next to my head. And I remember very distinctly thinking to myself, when did I wake up in a Lifetime movie? This is not happening to me. It's almost been a full year since I was out, and I was just thinking about this the other night. It feels like it's been longer sometimes, and some days it feels like it still just happened. So I can't say that there was any one thing that I did to get to where I am, because each day is a process. Each day starts over. And one of my friends has a great quote, if I can quote her. She says, happiness is a choice. You have to choose happy every day. And I try to think of that because it's easy to get downtrodden and think about how much has happened and the injustice of it all, how much you didn't deserve it, and you see your friends dating or other girls and they're happy, and it gets hard.
With my ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend, the patterns of abuse you always felt were physical, and it's not always that way. There are emotional, financial, and all other different kinds of ways you can be abused. And it took me a pamphlet from Mark Ober's office once I had a restraining order filed against my ex-husband for me to realize that I had been abused. Since I've started Vision of Hope, I find that this inner hurt that I was denying is coming up and it's bubbling, and it's getting better as I continue to talk about it. But I think that if I could just try to help somebody be more aware of what abuse really is. It's not just being kicked around physically, it's being kicked around emotionally, financially, mentally, whatever way you want to call it. There's so many different forms of abuse, and I really want people to be able to understand that and leave earlier or get out of a situation earlier, because I didn't really understand it. But I would tell anybody to listen to what your gut's saying, your inner voice is saying to you, and be brave enough to walk away, because there are so many better things that can happen for you. There are better relationships you can have, and you will be better on your own if you could just find the strength to go.
My dad was an alcoholic, and it's a disease, of course. When we were little, I've witnessed my mom being abused. Not something I was comfortable talking about at all. You see things and you don't understand them. They just happen, but they become a part of your life, and it becomes when these things happen. When we see this and we scream and we cry, we go back to a normal lifestyle until it happens again. So basically, it was my life, and I didn't understand it. There's nothing I could do as a child. Just you laugh when you can laugh, and you cry when you need to cry. So going through the many years of growing up, I was a product of my environment. So I didn't have any independency. It was basically, leaving the life of being 17 and leaving just out of fear. Not because I just wanted to find another place of comfort. I just was running, but I had no destination. So I did, and I kind of find myself right back into the same pattern of being with someone who was just like my dad. You look for love. You don't know really what it is. You're just looking for something that makes you feel good. I wasn't strong. I was very shy. I was very timid and fearful of life. So it was very easy to find myself into a situation where someone can control that, because I was okay with that, and it was hard. I think the hardest part was it wasn't strange to me. I knew it wasn't right, but did it seem wrong to me?
Back in my younger years of life, dealing with the guy pretty much that I was engaged to, it was a pretty rough journey. It was a lot of verbal abuse, not much as physical, but it was a lot of verbal abuse that I was encountered. I was very dependent on him, and it got to a point where I felt as if that if he left, I would be nothing. That's how I feel like what would be my purpose if I didn't have him in my life. And it got so bad to the point that breaking point, what woke me up was pretty much I was actually submitted in an institution for 2 weeks. I was placed on all types of medication. I was in there with people who were bipolar. People were, they had multiple personality disorders, things like that. And that really seriously woke me up and say, this can't be the life that God has given me to live. This cannot be it. I just know that Jesus Christ died for me so I can live. So that shows how much my value is and how much I'm worth it. And you are worth it as well.
And it's not worth being in a relationship where someone is tearing you down or hitting on you or making you feel like you're less than nothing when you're worth so much more than that. And you are loved when it feels like you're alone. God is with you. And people are there for you.
The thing that sits on my heart is that, we've been called to be free, and they have overcome some tremendous trials and obstacles. And I know that's because the hand of the Lord is on their lives, and all of us are meant to do something bigger than what we're doing. And that's how I see these ladies for the show. They're meant for something greater. And if I had anything to say, I would just say, stay close to God, trust Him, listen to His voice, and only move when He tells you to move, because He definitely knows the best direction and has an outstanding plan for their lives.
There are so many women out there who inspire me every day because of their stories and their courage and their strength. People like Frankie, like Jessica, like Rosa, like all the women that I have met along the way. My motivation is other women. It's not my story, but it's their stories. And that's why I get up out of bed every morning. Every day before I put my feet on the ground, I thank God for what I'm doing. And I know that He has commissioned me to do this. It's a mission that I have in my life to get out there and tell my story, but to help others to learn to tell their story, to find their courage and their strength, to know that they're beautiful inside, that they have a story to tell of their own, and that by them telling their story, they're going to be able to help others.
Play your favorite song and sing.